Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many people turn out. My name is Mary Lynn Evans, and I grew up in Oldtown, West Virginia. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I executive produce Coal Country, and I support the work of Josh Fox, who produced Gasland. What I wanted to talk to you about was just my own personal experiences. My family in West Virginia, probably about 5 years ago, the natural gas industry came in and put in like a 3-lane road and started building up the bridges. And they weren't sure what was going on. They thought maybe there was some kind of military installment or ROTC or something going out there, until people started knocking at their doors and wanting to lease their property. Even our cemetery, they wanted to lease, to drill. And at that time, 5 years ago, we had grown up on farms, and all we knew about natural gas was just those, wells that everybody had on the farm. It seemed pretty innocuous. But at the end of 5 years, what happened to my family's land and down there is this. Their well water became unfit to drink. When they would light their stove and turn on their water at the same time if someone else did that, the water would catch fire. One of the natural gas corporations did pay for city water to be run to them. But they had well water before. They'd always had well water. Well, I don't know, I'm just saying, in my own personal experience, we never were able to set fire to water. No, I mean, from my own personal experience, we never set the water on fire.
This is kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, let's keep to the rules.
Yeah, I just want everybody the opportunity to speak. And
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
The other thing that happened was when Chesapeake and the other companies started coming in with these huge equipment and huge diesel trucks, a lot of the people that were younger in the community just moved because they didn't want to be around, all this heavy equipment and what was going on there. But the older people who were really set there stayed. And what you have now is a community where a lot of people have moved out. And so it's made up mainly of older people that are dying off. And in those 5 years, that's what we saw, were not only were these changes, to your water and other things, but communities were dying off in West Virginia. At the end of 5 years, I think they capped the one well that they drilled that was near my family's land and have left. They've moved to Ohio. My cousin's neighbor works for the natural gas industry, and he now drives up here every day. And my friend up here drives down to West Virginia every day trying to lease mineral rights. So those jobs that were there aren't there anymore. And the only thing that really was the outcome for my family in their 5-year experience with the natural gas industry was now they have city water, and a lot of their neighbors have moved away. And there have been, I think, 3 earthquakes. We used to didn't have earthquakes down in Braxton County, but we do now, once fracking started. So there are serious concerns. And I guess, my one question to the industry is, if I'm not permitted to put 600 and some chemicals into their water without letting them know what they are, why are they allowed to do that to my water and the water of my neighbors and the water of the entire East Coast of America forever? So thank you very much. I think it's just important that people understand what happens in communities when this industry moves in. Thank you.
Now, Ron, you still have time, but if you'd like, if Sandra, if you want to come up and finish out this time spot, and then let Ron do the second time spot. Sandra, you can come on up. Sandra's township resident. She's been going around and a strong advocate. She's tried to wring my arm a few times, but I'm sure she has a lot of nice things to say, and I appreciate you being here, Sandra. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Sandra Billick, and I'm a resident of Medina Township, a member of Medina County Concerned Citizens. And I, along with a very strong core group of people, have accomplished quite a bit here in the county. Our goal has been to educate the trustees and our elected officials and our residents as to this process. There was a handout that hopefully you got, and it kind of was a chronology of everything that I had planned to speak about this evening. But I will have to cut it short because I did want to have Mary Lynn speak. It's always nice to have somebody with personal experiences that has lived through this. They can give you those experiences. And but the one thing I would like to say is that Steve talked about the cement and how it's a big issue over there in Pennsylvania, but it's also a big issue everywhere. The failure of the cement casings is a major problem. The industry even admits that this is so. And in our own county here, there's a timeline online for Medina County, and it speaks to back in 1937, where the whole area in Chatham, pretty much everybody lost their water. And it was due to poor cement casings and poor drilling techniques. And I have to say that 75 years later, not much has changed. We still have poor cement and poor drilling techniques. There are a lot of documents on that sheet that I handed out, just reference points that you can go to for health effects of this, all types of things. Dr. Ingraffia does speak to the rate of the cement failure. He feels that 5% of the cement casings will fail in the first year. And after 10 years, that 30% of those cement casings will fail. And after 20 years, you're looking at a 50% failure rate. And this is of significant concern. The one document you probably should take a look at is from Buckeye Forest Council. They have compiled a list of 24 regulations that are severely lacking in Ohio. And I think if you will take the time to visit that, you will see that we clearly have a major problem in the state with a lack of regulations. As far as moving to the future, there are a lot of things that we can do. Of course, the first thing that you need to do is get educated. And that's something that you're all doing this evening. And you can get online and do online petitions, and hopefully that will be something that you will look to. I do feel that those are very beneficial. You can write letters to our legislators. There are a lot of our legislators are working on this issue. We have bills sitting in the Agriculture and Resource Committee to put a moratorium on and enforce stricter regulations. But those bills are sitting there because State Rep Dave Hall is the chairman of that committee, and I guess he doesn't want to move them out of that step, so you might want to consider writing him and encouraging that those bills get moved on. And in my personal opinion, we need to support the reversal of Citizens United, because I think what we have a problem is not really a problem with fracking. I think we have a democracy problem. Our rights have been slowly etched away. They've taken away the rights at the local level to zone these industrial units out, and perhaps that might need to be something that needs to be changed. I think that we all need to know who our legislators are, and we need to know who we're voting for, and we need to find out what their stand is on green renewable energy or on an outdated mode as oil and gas extraction. I think that it's also beneficial to attend a democracy school. There was a handout on the table with the signs. There is one coming up very soon that might be something that you might be interested in doing. And the other thing that I have been actively promoting, as well as the other members of Concerned Citizens, is to support a community rights-based ban. And that is an avenue that we can look towards. Dryden, New York, just recently, they had put a ban on, and it went up to the state Supreme Court. and their state Supreme Court upheld Dryden's right to decide what is in their locality. And I think that's very significant. And I think that's all I have to say for this evening. Thank you very much.
The good thing is that was about 30 minutes. So that actually worked out pretty well. You know, actually talking about, you know, community responsibility and, you know, people's opinions and the democratic process. I'm a big advocate of the democratic process. I think that we all should be able to disagree. But I had a township trustee call me and he made a recommendation. I meant to do it before the meeting. But who here came today that is undecided about their feelings on fracking? If I could just get a show of hands. So roughly about a third. Who here is in support of the industry today? Roughly about a third. And who here is opposed then, I guess? Yeah, roughly about a third. So it looks to be that, you know, we have a good mix of people in here today from all sides. A third that, you know, have opinions against, a third that have opinion in support, and then a third that's undecided. So I think that's great. Hopefully when we get some questions and we start working through them, those differences we'll try to address. But one, I guess, quick change. Rhonda said that her presentation was 45 minutes. In this 15 for Mike. So what I'm going to do, if everybody's okay, I'm going to permit her at this point to do 45 minutes, and then we'll do the 15 in the second session. And then after her 45, we'll take a break. So we're going to move forward that way, just so that we can keep some kind of continuity with the speakers that have taken time out of their busy schedules to be here today. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Chazzy with the Ohio Oil and Gas Association and the Ohio Energy in Depth program. I appreciate the invitation this evening. Mike, appreciate the invitation. And Steve, Mary Lynn, stand to everyone. Appreciate the evening as well, too. With my 15 minutes, I'll talk a little bit about our group, a little bit about why we're here this evening, and try to address some of those questions up front, and I look forward to taking your questions a little bit later on. My presentation, an economic renaissance in Ohio, energy opportunity, jobs, balance with protecting human health and safety. Energy in Depth is our group. We're can be found on the web at www.eidohio.org. This is who we are. We're led by Tom Stewart, our Executive Director from Fairfield County. Rhonda Rita is also a partner of ours. And myself, I'm actually from Summit County, just over the border. And I have two counterparts. Dan is our Communications Director in Franklin County, and Sean Bennett's our Field Director in Guernsey County. So we're all here from Ohio. We're a grassroots advocacy, research, and education initiative organized in support of responsible oil and gas development in Ohio, and we're a partner of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. My topics tonight are background, history, terminology, technology, geology, regulation, economics, jobs, a little bit about the conversation, and some common myths that you hear. A little bit of background. A lot of what you see in Ohio are what we call independent producers. They're a non-integrated company that receives nearly all the revenues from their wellhead production. They explore 80% of all American wells, produce 65% of America's natural gas, and 54% of American oil. They employ roughly 2.3 million upstream jobs, and they're represented by the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. You see a lot of education by the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program. A little bit about the history. Oil was first discovered in Ohio in 1814. First commercial wells in 1860. Total wells in Ohio's history, 275,774. Total producing wells in Ohio, and this is today, a little over 64,000. And this is an interesting little fact. The drill bit has been tested at reserves ranging from 100 feet to 13,000 feet. And in 2010, a new record was set in Belmont County in southeast Ohio that reached 13,727 feet. Wells have been drilled in 79 of 80 counties. Over 80,000 of those wells have been hydraulically fractured. And we're fourth among all states in total wells drilled. This is a really interesting clip that is from the Hartville News, and if you can see it, it is from 1954, and you can read the headline, Hydraulic Process Used in Developing New Oil Well on the Roar Farm, and that was over in Hartville in Stark County. Some of the terminology that the folks and us will use this evening so you can be familiar with the definitions and the terms. Hydraulic fracturing is something that you've probably all read about or heard about. This is a lot of what we're here to talk about this evening. And that's actually the breaking apart of the rock, and Rhonda has some samples here this evening. Vertical wells, meaning up and down, with a horizontal lateral, there is a difference. Utica Shale Formation versus the Marcellus Formation, which is partially what Steve talked about this evening. You see a lot more Marcellus in Pennsylvania, and you're going to see a lot more Utica here in Ohio. The resource rock versus the source rock, a difference between where the oil and gas is migrated from and where it actually is located. Dry gas versus wet gas versus oil, and here in Ohio, we're going to see production of all three. Porosity and permeability, a little bit about some geology terms here. Most productive wells have good porosity but poor permeability, which means, as you can see there, porosity is oil and gas trapped in the pore spaces of a reserve rock versus permeability, which is the pore spaces that are connected, allowing fluid to move. Technology. Like most industries, the oil and gas industry is motivated through advancements in technology, innovation. Some key dates that affected the industry. In 1908, the rotary drill bit was invented. In 1947, Kansas, hydraulic fracturing. In 1953, fracturing of the Clinton sandstone. In 1963, a big advancement in seismic technology, understanding exactly, being able to shoot seismic beneath our feet to understand what those formations really are and what is contained in them. Another leak in seismic data was in 1985. We were actually able to shoot seismic data all the way to the Knox Rose Run Formation, all the way down to the bottom. And in 1990, horizontal lateral for first use in Alabama. This is a great photo to try to explain to folks what exactly we're seeing between the difference between a vertical well and a vertical well with a horizontal lateral. And if you'll allow me to turn around here, typically what you'd see in a traditional well with spacing is 32 separate pad sites needed for 32 wells, so straight down. So if you imagine each one of these lights could potentially be a vertical well beneath the ground. Then moving over to a horizontal well, you have one vertical well with up to 6 or 8 horizontal laterals off that. So when you compare the two images, you see what the surface disturbance is, you see how many different well casings you would need, and you would see actually you're able to produce the very same area with much less surface disturbance with one vertical well and several horizontal laterals. And that's what happens when you push the wrong button. There we go. You just give it enough time. There we go. This is what's called a Christmas tree. This is what's left over after the rig has moved out and the well is starting to be produced. So in that earlier image, that silver casing up top is actually what this looks like. This is where all your valves and hoses are, so you can actually pull up a truck and... Thank you. Geology. This is a map that a lot of folks have seen. It's from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Thank you for my laser pointer. Surface. A few hundred feet down, you'll see the aquifer, water. Surface casing, cemented all the way down. Your vertical well. There's the Marcellus Shale here in Ohio. Horizontal lateral into the Utica. So the Utica, as you'll see here, is is deeper than Marcellus. Marcellus is deeper than the water table. If you're interested, that map can be found on the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I realize it's a little tough to see in the back. Here's what I talked about before with the resource rock versus the source rock. Source rock is actually where we're going to these days. That's the Utica Shale. That's where all the oil and gas is that we're going to be producing, versus the reservoir rock, which is your typical, maybe your gray or your sandstone rock. So it's a little more shallow, and it doesn't contain exactly the same amounts of the resource rock will. It's another map from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, where you just see exactly where the Utica and where the Marcellus is, based in Ohio and in Pennsylvania. You can see the different depths, and this is a map you can see on the Ohio Department of Natural Resources website as well, too. So if you want to look at it and actually be able to read the numbers as far as where it is in which counties and how deep it is. And these are the different Utica plays, the Marcellus play, the Barnett play, that are all being talked about in the media. So this is happening in very different parts of the country, but happening all over the place, as you can see here. And we're in the Utica Shale and the Marcellus Shale to the east of us. One of the more important topics we can talk about this evening, and this is where I'll spend most of my presentation, is in the regulation that's currently on the books here in Ohio. One of the most important pieces you can talk about is Senate Bill 165, enacted under the last General Assembly and the last gubernatorial administration in 2010. Represents the most significant revision to Ohio's oil and gas laws since the amended House Bill 501 enacted in 1984. What it did was looked at Chapter 1509, which is where all of Ohio's oil and gas rules and regulations can be found. So if you'd like to do some of your own research, simply Google or go to the Ohio House, Ohio Senate. You can look up Chapter 1509. You can look for yourself exactly what's in the Ohio Revised Code. But some of the key points is it raised the Department of Mineral Resource Management budget from $3.1 million to $7.1 million. Those are for regulators or inspectors that are boots on the ground. Increased liability insurance to $3 million. And one of the most important pieces it did was codify the well construction and completion processes. A little bit more about the regulations here in Ohio. Again, Chapter 1509. The Division of Ohio Oil and Gas Resource Management is the sole and exclusive authority to regulate the permitting, location, and spacing of the oil and gas production here in Ohio. They have sole authority over the process. Again, it's very important to realize that it's not spread out among several agencies. It's all contained within the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Some of the most important things that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources looks at is the fracturing ticket, the fracturing chart, which lists all the additives and the constituents used, and at what rate, and at what pressure, and at what time those went into the well. So it's a little bit about disclosure, and it's a little about tracking exactly what is happening with that well at any given time. Some of the other rules and regulations that we are regulated by: Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, the Community Right to Know Act, which is one a lot of folks aren't aware of, but if you ever want to look up something, check out what's actually contained in the Community Right to Know Act. It has a lot to do with the MSDS sheets, which was on Steve's presentation a little bit ago. That's actually the Material Safety Data Sheet. And that's one of the most important things for transparency that anybody would be interested in. Should there be an incident, all the important data is actually kept on those MSDS sheets. Something that sometimes you hear about is the industry is not regulated and there's something called a loophole, sometimes referred to the Halliburton loophole. I would direct folks to halliburton.com. And I will tell you that reason for this reason. Actually, all the additives and constituents that they use in their jobs are actually listed on their website. So I find it surprising that sometimes people refer to a company as trying to hide things. When on their own individual website, they list everything that they use. Regarding transparency, this is a screenshot of what you would see if you go to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. You can look up any particular well, any particular permit, and find out exactly where it is in the process, what's happening, what stage it's in, and what's going on with that individual well. Would recommend folks check that out as well. Something a lot of folks aren't aware of is the Stronger Review, which is a process that was put in place by the Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission created a strong review, which is the state review of oil and gas regulations. Puts everybody that needs to be together in a room at one time to talk about individual state regulations and compares and contrasts them with other state regulations. For example, ODNR, Ohio EPA, federal regulators, meaning US EPA, US DOE, and the industry and the environmental committee were all in that room. What they did was when they talked about our latest Strongest report, the regulatory program in Ohio is overall well-managed, professional in meeting its program objectives, and has a lot to offer to other states. Some of the other states that participate in this process, meaning we compare our rules and regulations to theirs and vice versa. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Colorado, Arkansas, and North Carolina. Ohio's been through this process 3 times. It's a very, very good process, and it looks at everything that's on the books and compares and contrasts them and actually rates them and makes sure that there's other things that states can learn from. And to Steve, to your point, you can learn from other states what they're doing and make improvements in your own. Economics, and my time is running short, so Ron and a few of us can talk about this, but if we recover just 5% of what we think is under the ground, meaning 15.7 trillion cubic feet of gas and 5.4 million barrels of oil, that's just here in Ohio. What I think that means is local supply, less disruptions, less volatility. Something a lot of folks may or may not be aware of, you may see your natural gas bill in your house decrease, but this is actually what it looks like. 2008, $7.95 per 1,000 feet at the wellhead, going down to $3.